Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, don't use YouTube as a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, get one. You deserve it. Let's watch.
A woman who insulted you for no reason is not supposed to talk to you anymore. I'm sorry. I listen to my mom. Bye.
Why are you being rude?
Okay. I have no idea how I insulted her. Okay, whatever. I'm the big bad mommy.
Okay, so two things. One is we see in Trish a very similar demeanor in the face of conflict. She reacted to Natalie in the same way that Mike reacts. You know, there'll be some blow up and Mike will go, instead of running out the door and saying, Natalie, I'm sorry, what did you think that I said? I don't understand. Just throw your hands up and avoid and just, well, whatever, you know, even though on the inside, I'm guessing Trish is really quite upset. Mike exhibits this behavior as well. The other thing is we still don't know what happened. According to Natalie, Trish called her a hooker. And on one hand, we'd think, would Trish really say that? On the other hand, maybe she did. Hard to know. I wonder if they'll work it out.
And become an interpreter. She's been demanding, questioning, and putting labels on me. Like, what kind of rude and what kind of mean person she is, honestly.
Are you having a major malfunction or what? Natalie.
Sorry, what?
Anyone
I'm
home?
ready to go to airport.
So, yikes. She is hurt. According, Mike, you understand that your wife believes that your mother called your wife a hooker. So you're probably thinking, Mike is probably thinking that Natalie, misunderstood the situation. But anyone would be upset at that. Plus, there's been a lot of things building up to this. And Mike goes outside and says, are you having what's your major malfunction? Instead of, hey, honey, what's going on? Just how you feeling? Can I do anything to help? How are you feeling? Hug her. Instead of, what's your malfunction? Now, why would someone do that? I think a lot of people would say, well, Mike is some sort of psychopath or something. But I don't know. I think if the major hypothesis that I have for him, I'd have to ask him if this were true, that because of relational traumas in his own life, he's terrified of being vulnerable. He's terrified of conflict. And so he will say as little as possible. He feels like he has to say something, but he doesn't really know what to say. He doesn't have a lot of practice. And he's just like hoping that it'll go away by saying, you're malfunctioning, stop it. When, of course, that doesn't usually work.
Well, yeah, we're not ready to go. You got to get out of the car.
Okay, I'm waiting in the car.
Well, we want to talk.
No, I don't.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Well, something happened. You just stated it. So what happened? You're acting like a child right now. What's going on?
Natalie.
Again, if you're trying to work things out with your wife, you don't want to call her a child. Also, you know what's going on. She's told you what's going on. She told you that she heard your mom call her a hooker. There's been other issues as well, the meat butcher store, that kind of thing. So as an ally, as a husband, you'd think he would say, honey, I'm guessing you're upset about this. Mom, did you really call her a hooker? Like, what's going on here?
I don't know what I said or did that would hurt your feelings.
Trish, 2 days before me and Michael got married, you called me crazy and you said that you don't want me to marry Michael.
Okay, so this is a wonderful opportunity because Trish did say those things, or at least something along those lines. A wonderful opportunity for Trish to apologize and say, yeah, back then, I didn't think you two were going to work out. You had a lot of conflict, and it's not for me to say. But then my son reaches out to me a couple days before the wedding, and he seemed like he didn't want to marry you, or at least at that time anyway. And so I was being supportive to him and basically said, well, son, if you don't want to marry her, you don't have to. And then he decided to pull out of the wedding. And at the time, I thought he was actually saving the two of you, because if he's ambivalent about getting married to you, then he should probably pull the plug now instead of after the wedding, right? So although, Natalie, I like you, and I wasn't saying he shouldn't marry you. I was saying you shouldn't get married to someone unless you're really sure you want to get married. And he seemed like he was ambivalent. Turns out he changed his mind and saw clarity and decided he wanted to marry you. So, it was just a moment, and I was just supporting him. And yes, I said some things that I should not have said. I was upset. I was trying to protect my son. I'm really sorry about that. I shouldn't have said you were crazy. I shouldn't have been insulting to you. And, that's on me. Okay, so why couldn't she say something like that? Let's see what she says.
When we arrive this time, I don't understand these jokes you make towards me.
What jokes?
Okay, you get a rare eye roll out of me for that. What jokes? Well, maybe Mike hasn't heard the jokes, or at least the pressure or something. Now, if you're Natalie, another way she could communicate is something like, well, okay, Trish, I get that you want me to work, but I felt like you were pressuring me to have kids. I thought you were pressuring me to work as an interpreter, and I might have came off a little strong against you. I appreciate the advice, but, I kind of have my own career path going, and I know you're concerned about that, but, I'm really trying to work on it. So there's that. But I really didn't appreciate you taking, I'm a guest in your house. You didn't seem to be really welcoming of me. I'm a vegetarian. It doesn't seem like it would have been that hard to make a vegetarian dish, or maybe you could have asked me if I could have made a vegetarian dish. And I just felt like, you just weren't really a hospitable guest. Now, maybe I'm just a jerk face and I'm too sensitive. I don't know. So Natalie could say something like that. If they both said that, I think the problem would be over. Let's see what they say.
I talked to my mom. I told her everything. And she said, Natalie, please, if this woman making fun of you, she doesn't want you in the family. Whatever you do, she will still say about you.
So Natalie is doing a classic triangulation. Instead of saying directly to the mom, I don't like you talking bad to me, and therefore I'm going to leave. But because she puts up walls and tries to create vagary, not as much as Mike does, in order to protect her vulnerability, she triangulates the mom and says, I told the mom what you said, and she told me that I should reject you. That's a classic triangulation. Instead of talking directly to someone, you pull in a third person. And now the mom is invited into a conflict with Natalie's mom, which can't be resolved. And then the anxiety just flows around, and two people never work it out. So let's see if the mom takes the bait on the triangulation, or if the mom says, okay, Natalie, I must have said something that bothered you. Just kind of go toward the resolution instead of against Natalie's mom. Let's see what happens here.
Like, it's inappropriate for me. I'm sorry, it's not what family does.
What jokes?
What was inappropriate that
exactly.
I did?
What? You're just saying stuff.
Because I'm too high
so what
for
did
it
my
to...
mom say?
Listen,
what did my mom say?
I'm too high for it to repeat.
So this is a tactic that is extremely frustrating. She's complaining, and Mike is doing his best to try to resolve it. I think the mom is at least showing she's open. Who knows if she's actually open? And she's saying the jokes and all this stuff, and Mike is saying, okay, what happened? And instead of Natalie just being like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened, Natalie is saying, I don't want to say. Why? Now, usually it's because I'm guessing for Natalie, she's worried if she says what she's upset about, that people will reject her, that people will say that never happened, or you're overreacting, and so she doesn't want to say because she doesn't trust that it will be received well. I think another part of it is like she might not actually feel very confident in her reactivity because of maybe a lifetime of having moments like this where she is like, am I overreacting right now? And am I going to be called crazy if I say actually what's on my mind? Another reason is both her and Mike will put up walls to protect their vulnerability. And one of the ways that you can get your needs met while protecting yourself from vulnerability is giving people a cold shoulder and a silent treatment, saying, let me out of here, I want to go, but I don't want to tell you why I want to go. That it's a panic response or a passive aggression against you, but they don't want to be so vulnerable that they tell you why they're upset, because that would invite vulnerability and thus more likelihood of being hurt in their mind.
Okay, you always do this, Natalie. Just come out here and speak. I don't understand. You're so smart, but there's a problem that you create, and all this imagination.
So Mike is starting to lose it, which is understandable, and we don't see him do this very often. So he'd do well by taking a couple of deep breaths and going to therapy, honestly, and learning how to speak with more differentiation. So I'm a little worried as to what's going to happen. But he complimented her, said she's so smart. Maybe that will be the hook. Let's see what happens.
And no one ever did anything, but you're mad. Like, so what did my mom say that disrespected you?
Even,
Like, how can we apologize or say anything?
So again, Mike, you know what she said. Why are you avoiding that? It's interesting. Why doesn't Mike turn to his mom and say, okay, Mom, I think what Natalie is upset about is she thinks you called her a hooker. Mom, did you call her a hooker? Why doesn't Mike just say that? Is it that he knows that Natalie will dig herself into a hole with the silent treatment? Is he trying to exhibit that he doesn't know because he doesn't want to come off to his mom like he has a secret against her? It's like, why doesn't Mike just help in this situation?
Exactly.
If
Did you
won't
tell your
say
mom
anything.
that I did that was
I
so
guarantee
bad?
you it was a misunderstanding. What was...
So we sometimes talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, according to John Gottman, in relationships, meaning that these 4 things are the forerunners of divorce. We have contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling, and what she's doing right now is stonewalling. It's a good example of that. It's just like, I'm not going to talk. We're done. Now, some of you might say that she's justified, but either way, this is a behavior that usually results in a lot of conflict resolution. You know, the little bit of their ability to resolve their conflicts comes to a screeching halt when people engage in stonewalling. And it usually also indicates if you are stonewalling, you have gotten to a very contemptuous, overwhelmed place that will have thoughts of, I'm done with this relationship. So this doesn't bode well at all.
for the 6 years. And I think I deserve to choose what I want to do. I saw very clearly.
Because
you think it's very bad.
I believe that you will make
I don't think it's bad.
more
There are a
money
lot of people
there than
who are
anywhere
actors,
else.
who are journalists.
Like, you say
Then
words,
I
but they have
shouldn't be in your
nothing to do
family
with
if you think I'm a rich, something who has to bring money to your family.
a rich...
So I wonder if Natalie has, which would make sense, an issue with the fact that in the United States, it's harder for her to get her career back online again. She says she's a journalist, she was an actor, and in the States, the only thing that she is being told that she qualifies for is an interpreter, and she feels like that's a step down career-wise. And that can be very frustrating to her, and the mom might have inadvertently stepped on that landmine, which makes a lot of sense. We could do better by asking more open-ended questions like, so what kind of career do you want to have, instead of, I think you should be an interpreter. So the mom could have done better that way. So, you know, it makes sense that Natalie would be sensitive about that. But as always with this couple and with the people around him, there's nothing inherently wrong with the situation. There's nothing wrong with Natalie having sensitivity around that. There's nothing wrong with the mom suggesting she be an interpreter. I mean, the mom didn't say, you're an idiot if you want to be a journalist. The mom was just like, hey, I just think if the two of you want to make money and you want to be happy, you know, maybe become an interpreter. There's a lot of money in that. Now, the mom had a tone to it, I think, which was more of a top-down. But, you know, on the scale of things, I don't think it was awful. Again, I understand where Natalie's coming from. I think I understand where the mom's coming from. I think I understand where Mike's coming from. It's hard to know really where he's coming from because he's so bottled up. But there's really nothing in this situation that is, you know, not resolvable. This is all resolvable if they would just be vulnerable and give each other the benefit of the doubt and rise to the occasion and reach out and say, I understand you. Help me understand you. It just is upsetting to watch. Someone asked me on YouTube Live when I was doing a Q&A last week, what 90-Day Fiancé relationship would I love to see go to therapy? And first couple that immediately popped in my head was Mike and Natalie. I don't know why. I know a lot of people aren't really pulling for them, but I am. I guess I'm just holding on to the beginning of 3 seasons ago when they seemed to be legitimately in love, and they're both goofy people and they just had all this potential and all this chemistry, and and I think another part of it is I just think their problems just aren't that bad. And if they just, family therapists come from the tradition of Carl Whitaker, Virginia Satir. Virginia Satir is one of my, sort of, I don't know, you call him like a therapy god to me. And she would have been excellent with this family because she was very good at getting people to talk about things that had all, but she was really good with families that were all bottled up. And as a therapist, I've tried to model myself after that. I've always tried to, help people to just tell me what's on your mind, what's going on, and moving quickly and being confrontational in a certain way to kind of probe people a little bit, get them talking. And so it's like with this family system, I feel like their success is just over this, to them, they're running into the Himalayas, but to me, it's just like a pebble that they have to overcome. And if they just can get over that pebble, they'll be fine every single time. So I don't know, it's just frustrating.
I want to be just happy.
Why is my mom being
I
disrespectful?
will choose the job I want.
But why is my mom being disrespectful?
It's not,
for us giving...
it's not disrespectful to try to help you.
So, I get it. They're defending themselves. But why would Mike and the mom not just say something like, hey, Natalie, sorry. I didn't know. I should have asked. I should have been more sensitive about it. You want to be a journalist. You want to be an actor. I'm totally sorry that I suggested being. I didn't mean anything by it, honestly. But I get it. You want to be a journalist. You want to be an actor. And I hear you. And, I want to support you in that 100%. Why couldn't you just say that? Instead, it's defensiveness.
She did nothing to you. So why are you acting like this?
I don't give a about people who hate me and cancel my wedding and call me bad names for no reason.
Right. So this is what happens, is small differences become big differences, and then the contempt sets in. Natalie hates the mom now, and probably the mom hates Natalie now, even though the issues that they were, conflicting over were pretty small, in my estimation. But now we're getting into the contempt phase, where you're starting to say, I'm done with that person, I hate that person, and then everything that person has done becomes colored in your contempt, and they become 100% more evil than you thought they were in the beginning.
Better just leave.
Okay, Natalie.
You sit back there and pout all you want. Ridiculous.
Get it done, Michael. Give her $5,000 and send her back to Ukraine.
Disrespect. Epitome of disrespectful you are.
Again, I get where they're all coming from. I get where Natalie's coming from. I get where Mike's coming from. I get where the mom's coming from. And they're all, they're all amped up and not a good sign. On some level, I remember last season when they broke up, I was like, well, maybe this is for the best. It was 2 days before the wedding. I was like, I know a lot of the viewers are just like, yeah, just break up already. I mean, it certainly would solve a lot of their problems. And then I wondered, well, maybe if they got married, it would solve their problems. Because for some people, it's rare, I'll tell you that the uncertainty of the future will cause insecurities that will cause sensitivities, which will cause conflict. And once marriage happens, then the individuals are more secure in the relationship, and they're less triggered. And I wondered if this couple would be like that, but apparently they're not. So I think it'd be hard to watch this scene without taking sides. And if I know some of you are therapists out there, I challenge you to watch this scene and to not take sides and to try to see it from everyone's point of view. This is what I do with my trainees, is watching scenes like this or having role plays like this and avoiding the layperson knee-jerk reaction of siding with someone. It's very tempting to do that, because once anxiety goes up, our differentiation goes down, and we want to find a safe place. We want to find a secure place to live of just like where everything makes sense. And if we're like, Natalie's the good guy and Mike is the bad guy, it's safer to feel that way because there's no ambiguity. It's not a gray zone. To zoom out and to see everyone as trying their best but making interpersonal mistakes that result in this, That's a way grayer area, and it's harder to conceptualize that way, and it's harder to feel sort of safe in that situation. So if you're trying as a clinician to grow and you are challenged with this, then I would, try this over and over again in scenes like this. If you are one of those people who can look down from above and see them all as in a compassionate light, then good for you. And really, if we could all do this in our personal lives, but in our political lives, in our social lives, the world would be a much better place for sure.
Is on the top priority for him. And it's clear as a day for me. Because she can do whatever she wants, say whatever she wants, he will always obey. I feel sometimes like I'm in a bed, not with Michael, but with Trish. I'm sorry, but I'm done.
That's not how I would describe it. Of course, I'm not in the relationship with Mike, so what do I know? But I wouldn't say that Trish is the cause of the problems between Mike and Natalie. It's interesting that that's the triangle that is forming. From the beginning, I've been thinking that the two of them, Mike and Natalie, both have a lot of relational traumas, and when there's any kind of tension, they put walls up and they just refuse to participate at all in any conversation, particularly Mike. And you could say that might be because of what Trish did to Mike when he was growing up. Who knows? But I wouldn't say that on a daily basis, Trish is a major factor in their conflict. But, what do I know? I'm not in the relationship.
Is it?
To all gates upstairs. You coming?
So, on one hand, I haven't been showing all the clips, but Natalie has been giving the silent treatment. She's been stonewalling. She's been lagging behind as they're going into the airport. She's been non-communicative. On one hand, you could say, well, Natalie's just trying to take a break. She's overwhelmed. She feels like they're treating her badly. And so she's just calmly creating some distance so there won't be any fight. On the other hand, you could call this a passive-aggressive silent treatment. Who knows? You make the call. Comment below.
It's going to be a great flight home.
Oh, boy. Again, consider the source.
She keeps saying that, consider the source. What does she mean? Does she mean Natalie? Does she mean where Natalie comes from? I'm not sure exactly what the mom is saying there. At the very least, I think the mom is saying, Natalie, there's something deeply wrong with her. She's irredeemable. Instead of looking at how the three of them communicate and how the three of them are coming from understandable places, but they are miscommunicating and hurting each other's feelings, triggering each other.
This is just beyond ridiculous. I did nothing to her. I said nothing to her.
No,
I don't know what.
You didn't treat her bad at all? I mean, you didn't call her any names? Try giving her many gifts and everything? And
My friends love those scarves that I give them every year.
Now, presumably, 90 Day Fiancé crew has them hooked up to microphones all the time. So if she did call Natalie a hooker, they would have that on recording, wouldn't they? So I don't know. I could see this show actually showing us a scene in, like a minute where they're like, last night, and then we actually do hear the mom call her a hooker. I don't know. I'm guessing we'll never find resolution to the question as to whether or not she called her a hooker or not. I could see it going either way, honestly.
I hate how Natalie didn't even have the decency to say bye to mom, and I'm sorry that my mom had to experience that.
Love you.
I love you, Mom. When we get home, I think I need to look at my life. I need to reevaluate myself and Natalie, and I need to figure out.
All right. Well, if you haven't become a patron of the podcast yet, you can do so now by going to patreon.com. That's how we know that you like what we're doing here. And whenever we get someone that signs up, we get an email and we're like, yay, someone became a patron. So if you want to go to patreon.com, become a patron, that would be lovely. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.